Alright guys, what is up? Today I'm back with another palette resurrection, this being the Venus 2 palette by Lime Crime. I know a lot of us probably bought this palette when the Venus 1 was out and it was really popular, and that's why I'm considering this a dead palette. I know a lot of people might not think it's dead because it's still one of Lime Crime's biggest sellers, I'm assuming, because they're constantly promoting it on their Instagram. But in my opinion, the reason this is a dead palette is because you just don't really hear a lot of people raving about it. You hear about the Venus 1 palette, or, you know, Venus palette, like being really popular and being like a staple in a lot of people's collection, because it is. And okay, so say what you want about Lime Crime, but they really did kind of set a trend in the industry, an industry-wide makeup trend with the red and orange warm eyeshadows that everybody's pumping out left and right these days. Venus, like, that started it all in my opinion. So Lime Crime, they set a major trend in the industry, and that palette was, I know, like, kind of controversial, but aside from that, like I said, you can love them or hate them. They kind of, you know, they set that trend. I'm not saying they invented red eyeshadow. I remember trying to find it when I was in college. Like, a lot of brands have made it, but they really did start the whole warm-toned red palette trend. So when the Venus 2 was announced, I, like probably a lot of other people who were huge fans of the Venus 1, the original Venus, I'm going to call it the Venus 1 forever. You know, a lot of us thought it was going to be like the counterpart to the Venus palette, like a cool toned yet still red, have maybe a blood red, some purples, burgundies, you know, like a cool toned version of the first Venus palette. But when it was announced, we instead got this. When I first saw it, it was like, wah, wah. It was totally not what I was expecting. Totally not my thing, but I saw it and I was like, you know what? I didn't buy it immediately, but eventually I did. You know, I eventually bought into the hype because I was like, you know, at that point in time, I was like, I have to have both of them. Why don't I have both of them? I need both Venus palettes. That I completely think a lot differently about makeup nowadays, just to reassure you. So when I first got the palette, I honestly didn't know what to do with it. And that's why I don't ever use it, is because it just kind of lives in my makeup graveyard. Like, of the palettes I do not know how to deal with. The palettes I don't know what to do with. So that's why I never use it, and it sucks because recently I have been getting some use out of it. Back in October, Jade Libra had a look that she did using Marsh, this green color, and oh my gosh, it looked amazing, which kind of inspired me to dig it out. And even then, I was like, what the crap am I going to do with it? Like, aside from throwing this orange and this red brown and this yellow and kind of combining it and using it in tandem with the first Venus palette, I've never really gotten a whole lot of use out of this. But when I saw that, I was like, I want to try what she did, so I got to try this Marsh shade. And then, not long after that, one of my subscribers requested a yellow eyeshadow tutorial, and I knew, of course, I had to have this shade, Mustard, which I really wish they would make in a single because I really love this, and I know I will go through it faster than any of the other shades in this palette, whether it takes me 2 years or 3 years or whatever. I really wish they would just come out with some singles, Mustard being one of them. I haven't really seen a good dupe for it, to be perfectly honest. I love it. I think more people need to have it that don't want this whole freaking palette. So yeah, that's why I consider this a dead palette. Not because it's not being used or promoted by Lime Crime, but because I feel like a lot of people bought it and just didn't know what to do with it and just kind of left it laying in their drawer. So lately, I have been trying to get some use out of this. This is the look I came up with. I've actually done this look 3 or 4 times in the past week, and I actually really, really like it. It was the look that I was wearing in one of my other recent videos, the one about the highlight and contour and blush placement. But this is what I had on in that video, and I wore it to work one day, and then I stopped by Sephora on my way out, and one of the workers stopped me and they were like, oh wow, that's nice, what palette are you wearing on your eyes? And I was like, oh cool, so I guess it did turn out better than I thought, because I thought, well, I'll just throw this together, see how it looks, whatever. And then when somebody noticed it, I was like, okay, maybe I'll actually do this tutorial for my channel. Maybe this will be my next palette resurrection. And lo and behold, here we are. Lime Crime Venus 2. Let's go ahead and get started. First, I'm going into Mustard, the yellow shade in the palette. And I'm just blending that in my crease as much as I can, building it up pretty heavily. Also kind of dragging it up onto my brow bone quite a bit. I'm going to do the other eye, and I want to show you this because I want to show it from different angles, how I shape it, and then how much I actually have to go back and forth to get it even. Because I feel like that's just the reality of doing looks like this. And then I'm going to go into Jam with a more flat, fluffy brush and pack that onto my outer corner and then blend it. So I'm just going to pack the pigment on and then just blend it as much as I need to blend it into that yellow, not dragging it too far inward. Changing the angle a bit, doing the same thing. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the yellow. I'm just going to go back and forth with it until both eyes are even and it's blended as well as I'd like it to be. Then I'm going to go into Mud with a smaller fluffy brush. It's a tiny Morphe one I always use, and I'm going to pack that into the outer corner. Now the concept I was going for here, so I'm starting at the end, most outer part of my lower lash line, and that's where I want it to be the darkest. And then I kind of want it to look like it like exploded and went in all directions and fades as it gets further out, if that makes sense. Kind of like a bang went off in my outer corner and it fades as it goes out and up, if that makes sense. I'm trying to describe what I was going for, but yeah, as close, like really close to my lower lash line all the way to the end. That's where I want it to be the deepest, and then just to fade out and up. And then I'm going back in with that yellow and just re-intensifying it because I feel like I lost a lot of it with the blending. Then I'm actually going back in with Mud and I'm stamping it in all of the kind of patchy places that I felt like it just didn't look as good as I would like it to. Then I'm going into Fly, that green shimmery shade, light green shimmery shade, packing that on my inner corner. Taking a wet brush to it as well, just to, you know, build up that shimmer. I keep building it up because I keep blending it away every time I blend out the edges. So just back and forth like that until I finally have it blended as well as I would like. A lot of back and forth. A lot of back and forth. Then I am gonna do my foundation. This is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea, and I am out of it. Blending it all over my face. Not too worried this time about shaping my eyeshadow because I shaped it pretty well when I was doing it, and I will shape it even more when I do my lower lash line. Then I am just going to set my under eye and, you know, parts of my face that are prone to creasing. And I'm using the Hourglass Diffused Light powder. Not going too crazy with the powder today. Then I'm going back into Mustard with that tiny little fluffy brush and blending that out onto my lower lash line and keeping with the shape that I started with the upper lash line. If you can tell, I'm just following the same shape that Mustard has created. I'm just making that, I'm just kind of connecting that line. Then I'm going into Jam, the orange shade, blending that out on my lower lash line as well, just a little bit closer to my lash line. And then going into Mud, and I'm using a more dense yet still kind of a blending brush, that little e.l.f. detail crease brush. Putting that right on the outer corner, then taking Fly again, and I'm running that along the inner corner of my eye on the lower lash line as well as the tear duct. Then I'm going into the NYX Contour Palette, and I'm actually going to do a pretty sharp angle today with my contour, blending that out, a more defined contour than I normally do. Blending it into my hairline to balance it out. Then I'm taking the NYX Sweet Cheeks blush palette that I always forget that I have and blending that out onto my cheek. And I am going to buff that with the Hourglass Diffused Light just to take down that pigment a little bit. That is a little tip I learned from Puffin's Wife, one of my favorite YouTube channels. Then I'm taking Becca's Shimmering Skin Perfector in Moonstone and just highlighting all the places I would highlight if I'm going to highlight the crap out of my face, like I am today. And I hate watching people put on setting spray, including myself. The look that I originally did, I did not wear mascara with it. I didn't want to wear mascara with it. And I had put on a darker lip. Changed that up a bit. Well, I ended up changing it up a bit. In between the time I filmed this and the time that I actually filmed my intro and outro, and you will see why in just a moment. In the outro, I will explain. But yes, this is the look without mascara and with a darker lip. And I really like the way this looks without mascara. But, you know, I did put it on just because I want you to see what it looks like with both. So, yeah, that is it. Alright guys, I hope you liked this tutorial and I hope you found it helpful. If you have this laying around somewhere in your collection and you just don't know what the heck to do with it, I hope this tutorial will help you get some use out of it if that's what you want to do. I actually had one of my subscribers comment on one of my videos today that was basically like, saying that sometimes to get use out of a palette, she'll just take that only palette with her to travel with, which I think is a really good idea, actually. I'm like, maybe I'll take this with me next time I go somewhere. You can always, if you want just a palette like this and you think this is really cool and this appeals to you, but you don't see a transition shade for your skin tone, just use your contour powder or your bronzer that you use. Boom, there's your transition shade, and then you've got the rest of this palette to work with. So, just another Captain Obvious tip for you guys. I hope my makeup doesn't look too bad, because to be perfectly honest, I already recorded this intro once today, and yet when I was playing it back and trying to edit it, I saw I had a single hair stuck to my forehead that would leave straight across. I was like, oh God, I don't know that anybody's gonna notice it, but my God, I did, and I couldn't stand it. I was like, I've got to redo it. Anyway, that's why my makeup looks like it's been on for a while. If it has, I'm not sure. Who knows? Let's see. Yep, we're doing good. Maybe. Anyway, I hope you guys like this tutorial. I hope you find it helpful. If you have any suggestions for me for another palette resurrection, then by all means, throw them my way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a makeup palette. It can just be any like old makeup item that everybody was just so freaking obsessed with that just got died. Any makeup product that was like executed by the social media gods and nobody ever talked about again. So another thing I'm going to run by you, for those of you who have made it all the way to the end of this video, do you want to see me do other people's makeup? Because I really want to do other people's makeup on my channel. It wouldn't be like models or anything. It would be like my friends and my family, which I don't know. It would just be fun. So anyway, guys, I hope you liked this tutorial. Let me know if you found it helpful. Let me know what you think about it. Leave me some comments. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber and you want to be, just click the subscribe button on your way out, and I will see you next time. Peace out, guys.